you back there.
Welcome to episode 44, I believe it is now, of the Cover 2 presented by Tigervision. I'm with Grayson Mann. I'm Patrick Neal, as always, and we're getting close to episode 50, half a century worth of episodes. But today we are talking NFL playoffs. They are still going on. More teams are getting eliminated. Some teams are getting closer to the Super Bowl. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yes, we are. The thing that was most exciting to me is I think besides the Giants-Eagles matchup, which we'll talk about later, is these were all relatively close games. It felt like these were the 8 teams, some more easy to predict than others, but fun overall, especially for you. Your Cincinnati Bengals are in the AFC Championship once again.
They are.
It felt like for a long time they couldn't win a playoff game, and all they do is win them now.
It's the Joe Burrow effect. They're once again playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. It'll be the 5th straight time the Chiefs are in the championship, in the AFC Championship. But we are going to talk about the Bengals first and the Bills. They beat the Bills 27-10. It really wasn't that close, I feel like. I mean, in the third quarter, it got to within 10, I believe, or maybe a touchdown. But it really didn't feel that close.
No, I think I texted you after that first drive. Might have been that, or might have been after the second one, where I just was like, that was a little too easy for them. It felt like Burrow was comfortable in the pocket. I think we talked last week, the line, especially we were worried about that. There are 3 new starters, notably Clemson's Jackson Carman, who played actually pretty well.
It was his first ever start at left tackle.
It was pretty cool to see that just the thing that everyone thought would be the Bengals' weakness ended up becoming a strength. They got the ball out quickly. Jamar Chase is unguardable as usual. T. Higgins had his usual contributions. It was Zach Taylor, as the kids say, a masterclass of coaching, which we talked about early in the year. You happy? I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, from where they were at the beginning of the season, this is miles better. Zach Taylor and Lou Anarumo especially completely outcoached this Bills team this past weekend. And, I mean, they're just playing so well. Eli Apple, if you do not follow him on Twitter, is the funniest thing, his Twitter timeline. Go check that out because he is going after Stephon Diggs, saying him and Josh Allen need couples therapy. You know, he's saying he's waving them goodbye to Cancun. All that kind of stuff. It's awesome to see. Hoping that doesn't come back to bite them. But, the Bengals just have played so well. And I think after this game, everybody is saying Joe Burrow is the number 2 quarterback in the league now.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, the head-to-head, obviously, you have that there. Joe Burrow's won more playoff games. He's gotten to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a fair assessment, especially the year Allen's had, where he's had the turnovers. They've kind of lacked an identity offensively. I don't know if that's all on him necessarily, but regardless, Burrow continues to win, so I think he kind of has climbed the ladder. He really has in the last couple of years, where I think everyone in the beginning of the season when they were starting to struggle, they thought, okay, maybe the Cincinnati run might have been a little bit of that team of destiny, might have been a fluke. They may be a playoff team, but they probably won't get back to the AFC Championship game. They're showing why they're a consistent championship team, and they've got cornerstones to do it for a long time.
Yeah, a week or so ago, Joe Burrow was asked about, what's this Bengals team's Super Bowl window, and he said, as long as I'm playing, we're gonna be fighting for a Super Bowl, and that kind of looks like that's the case. I mean, they're 5-1 in the playoffs with Joe Burrow. Previously before that, the joke was that the Bengals never won playoff games.
Yeah, they were cursed almost.
Yeah, but he's also changed the way he plays. I mean, from last year, he was so reliant on just deep balls outside the numbers. He took a lot of sacks, and now, in this game, I think he only took 1 sack. Again, you were talking about the line playing very, very well. Only took 1 sack. He's getting the ball out quickly and has just completely changed the way he plays the game.
It reminds me of when the Chiefs had that little struggle to start the season and Mahomes was making a lot of unnecessary throws. This was last year, actually, when they went to the AFC Championship game. Mahomes started taking the easy throws. They're like, hey, you don't have to be Superman all the time. You have to take what the defense has given you. He's really started to rely on T. Higgins a lot more. Tyler Boyd on third down. He's unstoppable. And he's really starting to hit his checkdowns with his running backs, too. I think I've counted like 3 or 4 to P. Ryan, where it just made it manageable. It could have been 2nd and 10 or 1st and 10, and it just moves the ball closer to the line, makes everything easy for him. For a quarterback to start really recognizing that, that's how the best do it.
Yeah, they were moving so well. I mean, every single time, whoever had the ball was breaking 1 tackle, 2 tackles, moving forward, getting 5 yards instead of what should have been a 3-yard gain. But the Bills, I mean, we got to talk about them a little bit as well. Where do you go from here if you're the Bills?
They're stuck. So I looked at their numbers. They're 21st in salary cap, and they kind of financially locked themselves in, I think, on 3 players: Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, and Von Miller. Von Miller, who was out for the season. Josh Allen, obviously, they had to do it. They had to give him the big money. But that's what happens when you miss that window. Not to go back on Cincinnati, but they have all their best players on rookie contracts right now, and they're making the most of it. The Bills, not saying that their championship window is closing, but they're not really at a liberty to make this splash move that they really need. Like going out and getting DeAndre Hopkins to be a second piece to Stephon Diggs might not be realistic because they don't really have the money to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they got to re-sign a few pieces in the offseason, even if they try and re-sign them. Yeah. I mean, I believe Jordan Poyer, Edmonds, their linebacker, and Roger Saffold, I believe, are all some of their key free agents. So they got to look at that and see what they want to do there. But they also got to draft a little bit better. I saw a stat on Twitter that they haven't drafted a Pro Bowler in the last 4 years, dating back to the Josh Allen draft. So they've drafted, competent players that start for them now. You got like Ed Oliver, Dawson Knox, guys like that. But, you didn't quite get the production out of Gabe Davis you probably wanted this year. Isaiah McKenzie, probably similar sort of thing. You didn't quite get the production. And this defense is, kind of starting to age a little bit. I mean, Jordan Poyer is a free agent, but
he would be my priority, I think, in free agency, just to reestablish that secondary a little bit more, just while you have him. But this is a team that's good enough, and this hurts me. This is a team that's good enough to win the AFC East every year, but I don't think they're good enough to go toe-to-toe consistently with the younger Bengals, the younger Chiefs, while Mahomes is still around. Another AFC team, maybe the Chargers, will start to figure it out if they can get the offensive coordinator right. Denver could maybe come back with the right coaching. Brady and the Raiders, there's a lot of factors that Buffalo's going to have to look out for. And I thought the home field advantage, when it started snowing, I was like, ooh, I don't know. And it didn't look like it mattered at all. The weather might not be as big of a factor as originally believed. But regardless, in the end, your Bengals are moving on, and we're going to talk about the Chiefs later. I'm taking Cincy to go back to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about it because it is Mahomes.
Yes.
We'll preview that a little bit later. The second game that happened Sunday night.
Fun one.
Yeah, it was something for sure. The 49ers beat the Cowboys 19-12. Kind of not scoregami, but
it's the most fun defensive slugfest I've ever watched. Not because of the final play, but just because of the attention that the game drew before. I think it had the most watched viewers for a divisional game.
I'm not sure, but the final play was.
It was hilarious.
I loved it. That was the best part of the game for me.
Do you remember in 2014 when the Colts tried a similar thing?
Yes.
They were punting on their own 35-yard line, and the long snapper snaps it to one of their special teamers, and they got 3 Patriots surrounding him. And Al Michaels is so confused. He's like, what the heck am I watching?
Yeah. I don't know what their plan was there. Zeke got a clean snap off, and, Dak did not take a sack, so Zeke's pass protection was all right.
He got pancaked.
But he laid his body out on the line for sure. But he threw it right to Kevontae Turpin. I don't know where the ball was supposed to go after that because there was no protection for Turpin. You had guys lined up behind blockers that I thought the ball was going to go to because
I thought when I looked at it again, I thought the play was to kind of misdirect because Turpin's their fastest guy. I thought they were going to throw it to Turpin, and there's going to be some sort of backwards pass back to Prescott, and it was supposed to draw the defense in, and then someone's wide open down the field. But obviously Turpin got rocked within seconds of catching the football, and the play was over. I thought the biggest concern was Zeke was going to snap it over Dak's head, and it was just going to be it. They managed to top the ending of last year, which is hilarious. I don't know how you can do that back-to-back years against the same team, but hey, they did it. At least they're consistent somehow.
Yeah, and Brett Maher was getting back in the groove of things.
Made
as
a field goal.
So
congrats.
He was 2 for 2 on field goals, I believe. He did get an extra point blocked, which I think was going to miss.
It was going to go wide left anyways.
So good thing it got blocked because that would have just cool. Yeah, but he was getting hot at the right time, so you never know. Had Dallas scored, they probably would have been good for an extra point.
You know, you never know, especially when you got an issue, especially given the memory of the Monday Night Football game about a week ago. The fun conversation for this one has been Brock Purdy and his play. He didn't have the best of games, but he took care of the ball. They did just it's what the 49ers really needed from him, to do just enough. He had to be better than Dak Prescott, and he was. The George Kittle catch, that I think was the turning point where Kittle's juggling it across the field, and I thought the camera was going to pan to some safety, lowering his shoulder.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs just completely whiffed on the tackle.
I couldn't believe it, but hey, Purdy in the NFC Championship game.
It's never would have thought of that, but if the Bengals don't win, the 49ers winning with Brock Purdy would be hilarious.
Has to be, especially because of the city of Philadelphia, and we'll go over Philly in a bit, but just Brock Purdy going into the environment that is Philadelphia has the recipe for so much just internet content post-game, regardless of how the game goes. Yeah. Just because it's going to be so hostile, so toxic, and then Brock Purdy's going to come in, Mr. Irrelevant. They're going to have something planned for him. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of social media and toxicity, so the Cowboys Twitter account, they tweet out headlines from all the games and stuff, and they tweet out articles that people have written. And one of them, they just tweeted out Dak Prescott gave away the ball twice in a narrow loss to the 49ers. Basically, in a matchup that the Cowboys had a chance to win if they didn't generate self-inflicted wounds.
Ooh.
So, if...
Read the lines, Dallas.
I mean, they tweeted out a bunch of different articles that were written, so I guess... I don't know. That's just weird to me that they're tweeting that from their official Dallas Cowboys account.
There was a social media intern that was probably handed the phone, and they're like, "Here, go for it." And then he was just like, "Ugh, stupid Cowboys, stupid Prescott."
I don't know. It's like a link to an article about the game.
Is it still up?
Yeah.
On Twitter?
I checked earlier, so it still should be. But
oh my gosh.
I'm just a little confused why the Cowboys, social media team is tweeting that out. But
maybe it's Jerry Jones.
There's a lot of heat towards Dak Prescott right now, for sure.
Yeah, and the one quote that I found, it was from Cowherd. He said that they paid him the Lamborghini money, and he's a Civic. I was like, ooh.
I mean, I still think Dak Prescott is, he's not the elite of the elite, but he is, I think, at least a, fringe top 10 quarterback.
Oh, yeah. I think that they came in and there was a tough matchup. This is not the same Cowboys offensive line that we're used to. When we grew up, I think around middle school, when they had Zeke as a rookie and they could just run over anybody. It's a different line. It's a different team. And they punted on 4th and 10, and then they had to drive the length of the field, which was set up in it wasn't really putting him in the best of situations. And yes, there were chances. I only really had the one interception in the beginning of the game because I think he's trying to fit in that window to CeeDee Lamb, and it tipped off of his knee, and that's how the pick happened. But not the best game from him. But I think for the Cowboys, and someone pointed this out to me on Twitter, is this is a great year for them, given the standard that they've set and the track record that they've had for the last 20 years. Winning a playoff game is a great thing for them. Not necessarily maybe what Jerry Jones wants, just because given his history, but if you look at it in a window of let's just take 2010 to 2022, them winning a playoff game, they don't do that much. That's awesome for them. Yeah. If I'm trying to look at it that way.
Yeah, but I mean, you can also look at it negatively, as in they were probably one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl, at least in the NFC. But it's a similar thing where they have a great offense, they put up numbers in the regular season, they have a good record, and then they get to the playoffs. They do win a playoff game, but they don't get out of the divisional round, which they haven't done for a long time. And when you see that just over and over again, it's the Dallas Cowboys cycle of I'm sure you all have seen where it's get hyped for the preseason or get hyped for the season, win some games, put up numbers, and then get disappointed in the playoffs, and it's just over and over again. And if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you got to start wondering, what's going to change here. I don't think you get rid of Dak Prescott or anything, but I think you got to get other weapons for him. It can't just be CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, by the way, I don't know what he was doing on that final drive.
I think it was just the most nonchalant. I think when the commentators pointed out, I guess it it's so late in the game, you just kind of assume it's just going to go down the way he kind of dragged his toe.
Yeah.
But complete lack of awareness for the final drive. Even if it was an impossible task, you got to have both feet in. And he had a great first-round game, too, so it kind of, like, blew my mind. But on the other hand, you have George Kittle, who's making all the right plays, and Jolton Schultz's tight end one is not living up to the par that
but
the expectation.
I mean, you probably got to get some other weapons for him. Michael Gallup hasn't been the same. Tony Pollard's hitting free agency. Zeke's getting older. So I don't know what you do there. You got to get another weapon for him, though, besides just CeeDee Lamb. But also, all this criticism towards Dak Prescott, we forget the week previously, he had one of the best, statistically, like a fantastic playoff game and looked really, really solid as well.
He had one of the best games of his career, and then he turns around with probably not one of his best. And it's just kind of the mark of a Cowboys quarterback is just kind of people forget very quickly what you accomplish. And it was just a 6-day span. From Monday to Sunday, people's memories are very quick.
Very true. Very true.
It's just the nature of, I guess, playing being number 4 for Dallas. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. But, it is what it is, Cowboys fans. I'm sure you'll be back in the playoffs getting disappointed next year. But we're going to move on back to the AFC. Chiefs narrowly escaped the Jaguars. Mahomes, probably the biggest storyline in this game is that Mahomes does get injured, has a high ankle sprain going into this AFC championship matchup against the Bengals. And, yeah, I mean, it's Mahomes, so I don't really know if it matters much.
Yeah, he could. Someone made a joke today. They're like, my top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL are Mahomes, Burrow, and then Mahomes on one leg.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen him like when he's got no legs underneath him and he's throwing sideways still 40 yards down the field or whatever it is. So I don't really know if it matters. I'm sure they're gonna have him juiced up on whatever
probably
legal substances he can have before the game. It'll be taped up. It'll be iced before the game. It'll be all that. I'm sure he'll be fine.
I doubt he practices this week probably too. They probably given him the treatment, giving him one of those little scooters that they give people at Disney when they have like a foot, like you know how you can't go crutching around at Disney World. So they
the shopping cart with the little car in the front
gives them controls.
Andy Reid's just pushing him around.
Yeah, Matt Patrick's like, hey, I want to be in the front. And he wants all the space in the front of the cart. And he just gets to kind of hold a little playbook and call out stuff to Chad Henne. But I can't help but thinking that the Jaguars blew a major opportunity here to go to the AFC Championship game. Because once Mahomes went down, I said, okay, they got to really capitalize on this. And I think you got to credit the Chiefs defense, who's really grown this year.
They really have.
Especially with Chris Jones, who you could have a conversation that he's on par with Aaron Donald in terms of top defensive tackles in this league. They're really good. They shut down Trevor Lawrence in that Jaguars offense. They had Chris Collinsworth calls it an overthrow, but it was an absolute bomb to Christian Kirk. 6 yards, and he just drops it.
You can't have that.
But yeah, it's a young team, so I don't want to be too critical of them on the road against the number 1 seed, even with Mahomes out. They just haven't been in many of these situations. Neither has Trevor. I mean, Trevor's been in them in college, but it's a little different in the pros. So they've overachieved already, even being in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think many people expected him to be at this point in the divisional round. And, even going toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. But I think, you get to next year, you get Calvin Ridley back. You don't know. I mean, nobody really knows how he's going to look. But beforehand, the 2020 season, he was fantastic. One of the better receivers in this league. So you get him, maybe he becomes your true number 1 option. And, I mean, you still have good options in Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. Evan Ingram, you can probably re-sign him for not too much money.
Maybe not.
This defense is growing as well. You got the likes of Tyson Campbell, who's one of the better young cornerbacks in this league. You've got some good draft picks coming up that you can potentially capitalize on. So I think, it's a very, very high ceiling for this Jaguars team.
Absolutely. So, yeah, they had their opportunities, and they couldn't cover Travis Kelce, who had 14 catches. It seemed like this was the kind of the year when Tyreek Hill left, we thought, okay, what is Mahomes going to do? How is he going to operate this offense when you don't have that, not to call it a cheap 50, like you have a little, every once in a while you have that 1 play drive where you can just throw it to Tyreek Hill and he'll take care of the rest. They really had to go out there and earn it, which I think what makes this MVP season more impressive. but a lot of it's been just throwing it to 87 and letting him go to work.
Yeah.
He's got the best first move, and he's also just a security blanket on third down. He's always in the right spot, in the right zone. They're like this. They're just in sync.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have to elaborate much on what Travis Kelce can do.
Yeah.
So.
It's good at football.
Yeah, but talking about this AFC Championship coming up, you say the Bengals are going to win this one.
I do.
How
I think
come?
I know it's Mahomes, but I think these ankle sprains are extremely difficult to overcome. And we saw him limping around in the field. There was a point where he fell on a handoff because he was trying to do it on one leg. I think he was either doing it on one leg or he fell, and the play went nowhere. Mm-hmm. If it's like that on Sunday and the Bengals are able to put pressure on him, because I think he's at his best when he's able to escape the pocket or do these. He's best when he's able to be at his most athletic. Like we saw him make jump passes, we saw him run out of the pocket. Like you said, he can throw it without being airborne. If they can keep him in the pocket and kind of prevent him from making his spectacular plays and just making him a little uncomfortable, because I think he's going to be a little bit antsy, potentially, to try to limit the pain, maybe limit certain mistakes. I don't really, maybe I'm going to be really regretting this. I just don't see how this Chiefs offense can be as efficient when he's not at 100%.
I mean,
it's a tough injury.
You say that, but it's Patrick Mahomes, and he can literally do anything he wants, though.
Yeah, there's that. It's just the Bengals are coming in at their best. They've figured out how to run this offense in multiple ways. They're running the football much better too. They're playing against a much better defense, and that may be a factor. They went from the Ravens. They were able to do that, and they kind of went down a little bit against Buffalo. Now they're coming back up to earth against Kansas City's defense. I just think Cincinnati's unstoppable right now. I don't want to jinx your team.
They do look very, very good, but this will have been the fourth time Mahomes and Burrow have played. The Chiefs and Bengals have played with them two on the team. If the Bengals win, they are now 4-0 against the Chiefs. If that happens, that would just be nuts. I just kind of don't see how the Chiefs go 0-4 against one team. I mean, credit where credit's due. The Bengals are a fantastic team. I'm just a little bit nervous is all.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm not trying to jinx or anything or trying to do a reverse psychology type of thing. I just have had this belief since the playoffs have started that the Bengals are on another level, and the belief has been reinforced almost, especially if the Chiefs are coming in wounded. They got an arm tied behind their back. I don't know. We'll see how they do in the first couple drives. If Mahomes looks 85%-ish and he's able to make accurate throws, maybe do a little bit of scrambling outside the pocket or do some crazy Mahomes-esque play, I'll go, okay, this is going to be a game. But I could see the Bengals going in there, do what they did at Buffalo. First drive, score, get ahead, and really make Mahomes work for it when he really can't given the injury.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a fantastic game either way.
Oh, yeah.
But last game we'll talk about before we get out of here, the Eagles.
Which was not so fantastic.
Yeah, this was probably the most boring game of the four. I mean, the Eagles win 38-7 against the Giants. Really wasn't close. Somehow the Giants' backups got closer. But, I mean, it's playoff football, so it kind of makes sense. But I think it was just the Eagles are just a better team, and I think that's what it came down to.
Yeah, like I said, with kind of coming back down to earth, the Giants went up to Minnesota. They played a Vikings team, which we both kind of, I think, agree on. That the defense for Minnesota is pretty bad. So you go into Philly, and you kind of get punched in the mouth a little bit. Once it was about 14-21-0, you kind of knew, okay, it's not going to happen. But this is the Eagles team we saw in October. Jalen Hurts he didn't look like he had a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
He was throwing the ball really well. He was running around. The Eagles looked pretty good. And maybe it's one of those things where we're getting fool's gold again, where we were duped into thinking Philly was better than they actually are when we thought, maybe you weren't as convinced as I was, but I was like, Giants could have a chance on Saturday. And I took the bait by wearing a Giants jersey downtown and got, oh my goodness, never doing that again. Sorry, Matthew.
Why'd you do that?
I wanted to be a supportive roommate, and I was like, you know what? I will wear the Giants jersey with you. I will go downtown. It was
bold move.
Pretty much a bloodbath
Bold
for me.
move
And I couldn't stop to explain people that I was just doing it out of the kindness of my heart.
Yeah.
But people were saying naughty language at me, screaming in my face. It was not fun.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, the Giants, I think similarly to the Jaguars, kind of overachieved this season.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of Giants fans were particularly thinking they were going to win a playoff game this year, but they're in a good spot. You got to figure out what you want to do with Daniel Jones this offseason.
What do you think fair, if they're going to want to keep them, what do you think a fair number is?
I don't think more than like $30 million.
Okay. I have on here a 2-year, kind of like what Brady signed with Tampa. It was 2 years,
Yeah.
$50 million, so about $25 a year. Maybe a third year like team option if they want to retain him. That sounds about fair to me, like kind of paying him as middle of the pack.
Yeah.
'Cause I think Bridgewater's making $14 million as the Dolphins back up.
I think it's got to be something around that because, you know, he had a very, very good game against the Vikings, but then like this game you look at it and you're like, that is not what you want out of your, you know, a quarterback you're paying $30+ million a year. So maybe that game brought the number down a little bit for him. If they had beaten the Eagles, maybe the Giants are looking at much tougher negotiations, and they might be happy that they lost the Eagles the way they did, just because they won't have to pay Daniel Jones as much. But yeah, I think you probably go somewhere in the 2 to 3 years range, somewhere around 20-ish to in between 20 and $30 million a year. It's probably fair. I wouldn't go much higher than that, just because, you know, you really only have seen 1 year of him playing.
Yeah,
well,
1 year of consistent football where he's not fumbling literally pretty much every game. Still leads the league in turnovers just through the course of his career. So there's a lot of big picture stuff that you have to look at. He's finally got the right coach. They necessarily have the best receiving core. They're still paying Galladay a lot of money to do nothing. I don't really know what he had a nice pancake in the wild card game.
He did. It
But
was great.
besides that, I mean, he's got more Twitter retweets than catches probably on that one catch. It's a tough one. The Giants are in a weird spot, but maybe they make a splash and get another quarterback. Maybe they draft. There's a lot of interesting conversations to be had.
Maybe they trade for like DeAndre Hopkins.
Maybe. That would be something.
I was thinking about like, what if, I mean, I don't know what Kenny Galladay's cap hit would be next year. It may not be very much, but if like you were to somehow swap basically his contract with DeAndre Hopkins, throw in a pick in there, would, you know.
Ooh, it's $21.4 million.
Next year?
Is his cap hit.
Yeah, so, you know, say you trade with it, you go up to Arizona and you're like, hey, we're willing to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. We'll throw in, you know, maybe our first round pick or something, which will be in the mid-20s. So that plus Galladay, kind of like contract dumping like they do in the NBA. But
maybe say they'll be willing to bite a certain percentage of his cap hit.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because the Cardinals could also just take Galladay, move on from him with the guarantee that the Giants are taking the front load of that cap hit. This really depends on what the new Cardinals owner is willing to really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, first round pick could be enticing for a team that's starting to rebuild and needs to build Kyler Murray some stuff. But okay, before we wrap it up, let's do Super Bowl picks.
Oh, okay.
For both sides.
Do you want to talk about the NFC Championship first, though?
Yeah, I was kind of just transitioning into
Fair
that.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So AFC, I assume you're going to take Cincy.
I'll take Cincy, but I don't feel confident in it.
I'm going to be confident for you.
Okay. Well.
Okay. The NFC Championship. We got Purdy going and facing another tough test. You have the Eagles, who are kind of revived in their form when we saw them in September and October. Who's going to the Super Bowl representing the NFC?
I mean, it's the two best rosters in the NFL. You know, if you take out quarterback, because I don't know if Brock Purdy, I'm not really counting Brock Purdy in that.
Yeah,
but he is undefeated, so I guess we'll see how much the quarterbacks kind of matter in this game, because both have fantastic defenses, you know, all the way through from the defensive line all the way to the back half. Both have plenty of weapons that if you get them the ball, they're going to create for you. Man, it's tough. I think I'm just going to stick with the Eagles as I kind of have all season.
You had the Eagles as your Super Bowl pick, and you're one game away from destiny, Mr. Patrick. I'm going to go with the 49ers. Okay. I think that pass rush is legit. I think Nick Bosa is going to really have a game where Just not that he's needing to remind people, but I think he's going to give Jalen Hurts some fits. I think that the Shanahan play calling, I could see a first drive or two where they have a really nice set of scripted plays to make Purdy comfortable. Maybe a screen to McCaffrey, a little toss to Deebo Samuel, just to get him in the right state of mind. Maybe Philly fans are throwing down the booze, and Purdy's like, "Oh, coach, what do I do?" And Shanahan's like, "Watch this," and he's got like 8 plays. And they just go down the field on that first drive. I could see maybe even a field goal too, just to get a little confidence in the young guy. Because I know it'll be a big game for Hurts too, but having the home crowd behind you is a little easier. So I think it really depends early on in this game. If Purdy can get comfortable, I think the 49ers can win this game by 10.
Yeah.
I could see it being similar to, I'm trying to compare an NFC Championship from the past, but I could see it being kind of like a 30-20 kind of affair where the 49ers are able to really just bully the Philadelphia Eagles on the other side of the ball. But I could see Philly winning this too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I think that's going to be the better game of the two.
I think this is the 4 best teams in the entire league that are remaining.
I agree.
Like I don't think any team was really upset.
Yeah, there's not like a flaw or just like a faker or a pretender in this group. It's kind of like last year where there wasn't really a surprise, I guess. Maybe Cincy was, but when we saw them play, it was kind of like, okay,
yeah. They were a bit of a surprise, I would say. But they're a better team now than they were last year. So it's pretty cool that we get, I think, the 4 best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, that's how it should be, which is good. I don't know, maybe the playoff committee messed up by putting certain teams in there. That's for you to decide. If only the NFL had a playoff committee, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how that would go. But that is going to do it for this episode of The Cover 2 presented by Tigervision. We want to thank you all, as always, for tuning in, clicking all those buttons.
Click all the buttons, guys.
Whatever platform you're on.
Be a maniac. Click them.
We want to thank the producers in the back, as always, doing the hard work, doing pretty much everything.
Yeah, they do all the hard work. We just talk, but they do all the hard work.
But, the hard work's just listening to us for half an hour.
Probably.
Every week. But, yeah, that's going to do it. We're going to get out of here. Thank y'all again, and have a good one.